Tactical Thoughts Heard, where we think so you don't have to. And now, your robot overlords.
Hi there. Welcome to this Pax special edition of Tactical Thoughts Heard. I know we've been out for a little while. We had, of course, the Christmas holidays, New Year's. Then everybody pretty much in this entire city got sick, and then work stuff. And then this past weekend, I was at Pax South, which is what this little special episode's all about. Coming this Friday, though, we will be back with a regular episode of the podcast, and I'll be getting the previous episode, episode 5, up on YouTube, hopefully this week. So from a podcast perspective, we'll be back in the saddle. We're going to start season 2, which basically means we have a new year, and and back to normal regularity for the podcast. So so let me kick off this PAX special by talking about what an awesome convention it was. I mean, I'd been to gaming conventions before, and of course, there's always people playing games. There's cool games to jump into. There's vendors and things like that. But I was amazed at the sheer size of PAX. I'd not been to any of the PAX conventions before. And I also was very excited at the indie games community, because here at this one place were, like people that create content for Dungeons and Dragons for their hardcover stories, like Chris Perkins, right? I got to watch Acquisitions Incorporated live run a session, and Chris Perkins was there. I actually got to talk to him for a second a little bit later on in the evening outside the True Dungeon area. But you had those guys, as well as people that are just bringing their very first game to market, and very, very small companies, and everybody's there together, and the community's very very helpful, very just good people. Everyone that I met, I was just amazed that everyone was awesome. So that's an encouraging thing for me, as someone who's part of this community, and a gaming enthusiast. I thought it was awesome, and it's just good to see. So another cool thing is that this con covered all sorts of genres. It wasn't just focused, because when I was looking at the events list before going, I saw a bunch of Magic the Gathering stuff and some Smash stuff, and that was about it. But apparently that was just because that was like their major tournaments, and some of them were invitationals and stuff like that. But so what they didn't talk about so much under the events list was just all the things going on. Like, there were several tables of Adventures League. There was an X-Wing tournament. There were tournaments for video games. Obviously, there was some Minecraft stuff going on. Hearthstone. There was the big arena for Smash was being played on Switch systems. So I there was everything going on there. Capcom had a huge booth there with Street Fighter V and some other games they were putting out. They had a retro arcade up on the second floor where you could go play retro games. I played Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, and then I played an old 1942 style game. I can't remember the actual name of it, but one of those flight games where you blow shit up and get all the little power ups. And then they had Tempest, like actual, honest to goodness Tempest. That was really fucking cool, because that's one of my favorite games from way back. So on top of all that, then you had card games. They had a ton of Magic the Gathering stuff there. They had companies there with card. In fact, I picked up one called Quick and Dirty, which is pretty funny. It's a party game, but I actually got to sit down with some of the board game and miniature game makers that had brought their games forward. I actually did an interview with Sentient Cow Games, and they have their very first game out called Escape from Dulce, which if you look back on the Facebook page, you can reference my interview with those guys in an audio format. But I also got to talk to some creators of some actual new material for old systems like the NES. And I think it's great that there's a game system that hasn't been sold in 30 years that these guys are developing new games for. Mega Cat Studios is one of them. They have like 9 or so new games that they've developed for the NES that you can buy and that they had right there. And then I got to talk to a group that I had seen on Facebook, and I was excited about it because they have a product called Nest Maker that they've developed to help people develop for this platform, which I think is great. And I actually went and backed them on Kickstarter. And they funded, funny enough, they fully funded in 36 hours, and then they hit their stretch goal in 48, which I think is badass. But they're on Facebook under the new 8-Bit Heroes, and they have a game called Mystic Searches that they're working on, and they've put out a prequel game called Mystic Origins that I picked up and am going to be playing on Twitch tonight, so look for that. That's on twitch.tv/tacticalthoughtsheard. But yeah, no, it just the sheer number of people there, just the whole experience, the ambiance. They had a scavenger hunt around, and which had me running around the whole convention center looking for these little kiosks that I could scan my badge on to get these little, achievements, for lack of a better term, little trophies or whatever. But it had me exploring and finding things that I didn't know were there. They had a whole area full of beanbags for handheld gamers. They had an area for music. They had a jam room for musicians. Some were DJs, some were actual bands, but it was like all game music style geared, which was pretty cool. They had another room that I walked into, and it was just a big stage, and there were people playing Just Dance on it, just not for a tournament, not for any good reason, just for fun. And there was a big stage. I thought that was awesome. No, I didn't partake. I got to run through True Dungeon, which is a 2-hour immersive dungeon experience. And also on the Facebook page, there's a link to my video review of that on YouTube, which I definitely recommend trying True Dungeon for anyone who's in D&D or any of that stuff. But man, there's just so much to think about and to pack in. I got to see demonstration of a couple demos of Star Wars Legion that were going on. So Star Wars Legion, as we've reported before, is the new 32mm miniature game out. And it's kind of a skirmish game out from Fantasy Flight Games in the Star Wars IP. Now, cool thing about it, and reports were not wrong. The miniatures are great. 32 millimeters. The sculpts are nice. They're snap fit. So, it's not going to be a heavy construction project to put these things together, but you can paint them up real nice. Of course, the demo sets look amazing. There's pictures up on the Facebook page, but the way the game plays is actually pretty simple. And as always with Fantasy Flight, it's weird dice, but their movement system. We had kind of talked back and forth about it and wondered, were you going to actually, for the first time in one of these Fantasy Flight games, were you going to need a tape measure? And the answer is no, but they don't use flight path templates like X-Wing does, right? Where you put this down in front of your ship and then you move it from the back to the front. They don't have that necessarily, but what they do have for Legion is a bendable, a jointed maneuver template. So whichever template you use, whether it's the 1, the 2, or the 3 for that particular unit, you lay it down and you bend it and kind of bend it to where you want them to end up, and then you move them there. So it's not as tedious necessarily as using a tape measure, but it is not as restrictive as using these flight path templates that you use in X-Wing, which work great for flight, by the way. X-Wing is a wonderful game, but it wouldn't work well for the ground game, and I have my issues with that movement style in Rune Wars, but we'll get into that later. But no, and the dice system. So I did find it funny that the white attack dice that the stormtroopers use when they attack is an 8-sided die with 5 blank faces. So 5 out of 8 of the times you hit nothing. Then I think there's a hit, a crit, and a surge. And that's it. Now you got 5 dudes, so you're throwing 5 dice, but the rebel guys are throwing dice with not that many blanks on it. So that's a whole other thing. I guess they're trying to stay true to the to the stereotype of the stormtrooper that they can't hit shit. But when I was watching, it was like throw the white dice, most everything's blanks. But no, the game looks fun. Whenever there's a release date finally announced, I'm going to be grabbing it. Fantasy Flight calls it On the Boat, which I guess that means sometime within the next 30 days we'll be seeing it. And my local game store here said that when they do get a date, they're going to plan a midnight release, and we're going to play the shit out of it. And that, yes, I will be there. So Legion looks cool. I got to play a demo of Wild West Exodus, which has been around a while, but I've never played it before, and the models look amazing. It's like a Weird West kind of alternate reality where you have very steampunky like things, or alien-y, like you got robot dogs with Gatling guns on top next to Wyatt Earp with a couple of really high powered guns, and it's just it's a really cool. And they sculpted Wyatt Earp's face to look kind of like Kurt Russell, funny enough, but it's a really cool world and a cool mechanic. I really like their mechanic system. It's all D10s. And you have stats that you add to a D10 roll to try to make a 10 out of it to hit whatever it is. So if your aim value is 5, you need to roll a 5 up to hit a 10. So that's how the mechanic works in the game. But it was a really fun game, and they have these there's some randomness involved to it, not just the dice, but some randomness is on how much turn you'll get, how many activation points, quote unquote, you'll get at the start of a turn. But what really got me was the models just look amazing. I took some pictures of some of their painted models that they had in a glass case. And this company, War Cradle Studios, I guess is not the originator of the game. I guess they bought up the IP. And I heard that they were also the company that bought up Dystopian Wars, which is another favorite game of mine, and are planning to push all these IPs into one storyline. I hope they don't change the mechanics of each game up too much. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Wild West Exodus looks like a lot of fun. I got a 2-player starter. It comes with some lawmen and some outlaws. It's like 10 models total, 5 on a side, which is what we played in the demo. And that thing's only $44. So for a 2-player starter to get into a miniature game, $44, it's hard to beat. In fact, I think only X-Wing has it beat on entry cost, and that's only 3 planes, right? So I definitely am looking forward to the ice outside melting, so I can go get some plastic glue and build my models for Wild West Exodus and play more. But yeah, no, I had a lot of fun with that. Man, there's just so many games. There was a group called Modern Knights, and they have a game called Crusade of Two Suns. And it harkens back to old school Warhammer Fantasy, and everything's on movement trays, and you're wheeling units around and things like that. But what I found cool about this particular company is it's 3 college kids. They had this idea, came up with a mechanic, came up with a rough storyline of their world, their universe, and the factions that they want to bring. They have 4 factions now. I think they said they had up to 9 planned, so 5 more. But they took it to an entrepreneurial contest and won some seed money, enough to make the demo set, right? So now, I think starting this Wednesday, their Kickstarter kicks off. And these guys, and actually, wait, that's today. So now, their Kickstarter is going to kick off. And these are college kids, local college kids. Like 2 of them are going to school in San Antonio. One of them's going to school up in College Station, but don't let that, distract you, Tyler. No. But no, seriously though, but these kids have a great idea, and one of the cool things that they did 2 what I find innovative ideas. One, they're opening their lore and their background up for writers, for people. Like they said, half of the fluff that's already in their storyline thus far came from playtesters. And that's just going to continue. So if you do something cool in the game, you submit it, or if you have a cool idea for the story to continue, or for a faction to evolve, or if you're a writer and want to write a short story, give it to them, and they will canonize some of that stuff and make it part of their lore. So one of their taglines is "Play in your world," which I think is really, really cool. And more power to these young guys that are game enthusiasts and just doing it out there, doing it and getting over the obstacles. I wish I'd have done stuff like that at that age. But, God, I sound old. But No, the other cool thing that they did though was with one of their frustrations with games like Warhammer and 40K was the sheer weight of books you have to purchase. The sheer you need a rule book, and then you need a codex for every sub faction that's in your army or whatever, and each one of those can be $35 to $50, right? Sometimes more if it's a nice rule book, right? But on top of that, it's just a high cost of entry and a high cost of maintaining your in on these versions of a game, right? So they put out a new version, you got to go get all new books. Well, one of the things that these guys did to kind of beat that is say, you know what, don't worry about any of that stuff. And it even says in their pamphlet, you give us $3 a month, you get every damn rule book we ever make, period. And if you stop, you keep the PDFs you have, you just don't get updates. And I think it's brilliant. They're not giving away their rule books like some other games do. They're not charging you through the nose like other games do. So I think it's a cool middle ground where you don't have to pay much. It's $3 a month, and it covers their cost of writing and publishing these things, even in PDF form, even though it's not a physical publication. And they may have physical books on sale separately. I didn't ask, but I thought this, $3 subscription thing was just a damn good idea. But yeah, so there was a whole lot of companies like that. I looked at a new computer game that is all procedural based, right? It was all based. So it's a single player game, and you go from system to system, and you can do. It's kind of like Freelancer. You can either do combat stuff, either at the dogfight level or at the fleet level. You can do just about, all the trading you want to do. Like from system to system, you could buy and sell goods, or you could carry a convoy around and do mining and manufacturing in a fleet if you want. So it's one of those, it's a single player world, but you can kind of do whatever you want in it. And I was really impressed with that. One of the things that I thought was really cool, in addition to the actual retro games that are out there, was even on new platforms, right? New phones, whatever. There is a resurgence of retro graphics or retro gameplay styles, I guess. Games that look like they belong on the NES or the Super NES showing up on modern consoles and PCs and phones. And I think that's just a really cool thing. There was a whole slew of them. I couldn't even begin to name them. I was just really, really impressed by all of that. So I guess all in all, if you have a chance to go out and check out any PAX convention, go do it. There's going to be, and here locally in the Houston area, OwlCon's coming up at Rice University, a game convention. So, find your local game cons. Find ones that are going to be in your area, or ones that may take a little bit of a road trip. I mean, road trips are always fun. Take them. But whatever you got to do, I say, if you're a gamer and if you like these kind of things, take the time, take a little bit of money, and go check out these conventions, because this gaming community is big, it's growing, it's awesome, and getting out there and being a part of it and seeing the new stuff, trying stuff you've never tried. That's really what it's about, right? Getting new things that you've never tried before that just broaden your horizons as a gamer. Hell, I learned things as a GM just from some of the games that I saw there. I learned a lot, and just expand what you do. If you're not stretching yourself, you're not growing, right? So even as a nerd. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap this thing up here. So I say, if you have the time, just go do it. Find a convention, jump in. All right. As I said before, everybody will be back this weekend with a regularly scheduled podcast, and everybody have a great week. Take it easy.